name is Mzimkhulu Stet. I'm your host. I welcome you to this episode of the Democracy Under Threat program, which is broadcast on thiskingdom.com platform. Today, we are assessing and evaluating the effectiveness of political parties as a vehicle for democracy consolidation, good governance, and the delivery of services to the people. We are going to look at the manifestos that political parties canvass or flaunt before their voters ahead of elections. On the panel, I have the former Secretary General of the Basotho National Party, BNP, that is Mr. Moeketsi Hanyane. I also have the Executive Secretary of the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, Mr. Booi Mohapi. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Today, we are going to look at political parties. And so far, political parties remain the only recognized form of establishing a government, or the only way of organizing citizens with the intent to establish a government. And the question is, as seedbeds of government formation, should political parties remain the only formation mechanism for establishing a government? Madam Happy.
We need to start by saying our laws in Lesotho do provide for individuals to stand and canvass and stand for elections. And for instance, if we have 60 independent candidates for that matter, and they all win their constituencies, then it means 61 of them can form a government without necessarily coming from political formation. So that we should also be cognizant of. Also, although it has become a norm, and hence why you are saying it is the only recognized method of organizing and canvassing for government. But our laws do provide for that. I think it is imperative to also indicate that although it is so, Basotho are aware of the shortcomings of the political parties. They are also aware of the shortcomings of the good governance and good government in the political party formations themselves. And
I think let's hold there, because we're still talking about governance within political parties.
Okay, man.
I also believe that we are not forced to follow political parties to form governments, but we should appreciate up to this end, it is the only traditional way of forming government.
Okay. And the question is, do they have the wherewithal? Do they have the capacity, as it stands now, that they are recognized as formidable bodies to form government in terms of their performance, in terms of the architecture?
If we were given a chance to assess how political parties used to operate maybe 20, 30 years ago and how they operate today, we'll be in a very good position to answer that. Because the approach of today is far different from the approach that was done before. If you take, for instance, in the 70s and 80s, political party leaders, before holding rallies, they would actually go into the village, find out what are the needs of the people. So by the time they go and address that populace, they will be sure of what the people need. But today, there are no such platforms. Politicians do as it pleases them. Take, for instance, in the Republic of South Africa. Before they go for an annual general conference, They will have a policy conference. They will spend a week discussing.
We'll get to that in
Yes.
terms of political parties and policy making.
Okay.
I just wanted to establish the role that is placed on the shoulders of political parties as seed base for formation of government. Now let's look at governance within political parties. And governance is extremely demanding nowadays. The scope of governance within public and private entities, it is a necessity. And if you look at the political parties in terms of their internal governance architecture, the question is, should we really still pin our hopes on political parties as seed base for formation of government?
That it is indeed the expectation that if you aspire to become government, and government having to abide by the principle of good governance, as an entity, you have to start, by demonstrating good governance within the formation. But if you look at our political parties and our political formations themselves, the issue of good governance within themselves is a very far-fetched phenomenon. Most of them don't even remember when last they held their annual conference. Most of them cannot even account for a small fee that is being given by the IEC. Most of them don't even have audited books. Most of them don't even have offices. So those are the minor things that I can say. If all political parties are tier 2, then they will then have to practice good governance within themselves. And then you would have then trust and hope that when they become government, then the issues of principles of good governance within government itself then would be practiced better by the very same political party that is leading in the government. Okay.
Political parties, any political party, small or big, it's a government in waiting. And given what that Booi Mohapi has said in terms of internal governance, what is your take?
My take is the issue of governance within the political parties is almost non-existent. I'm saying almost non-existent because if you look into the proliferation of political parties in Lesotho, the major cost has been the issue, the internal stripes, where people were themselves in. And 90% or almost all political parties also, if you look at them, they don't have conflict management systems. So from time to time, the very struggles that are within the political parties, they ultimately spill into government, hence so much instability also.
Now, let's look at political parties and their role in promoting or driving national policy. Ideally, they are the custodians, political parties are the custodians of public policy making, public policy development, public policy analysis, and they should have the ability to develop such policies. And you earlier indicated that in some countries, ruling parties hold policy conferences which dictate the policy direction that the party will drive if it's elected into power. Now, are political parties policy-centered, especially the ones in Lesotho? The Hanyane will come from a political party. Are political parties policy-centered?
The reason why I mentioned the issue of the present situation in 20 years ago is because I know the major political parties there, they used to have their conferences, which starts on Friday and will run up to maybe Sunday, late on the Sunday. But currently, even if I arrive on Friday, but I'm telling you, the opening of the conference will be after 11 o'clock on Sunday. By the time that they get into discussions, they will be in a hurry to go for elections or to discuss issues relating to who should be expelled, who should be suspended. The issues that affect the human lives are no longer issues. And I think that is well taken. I'm saying this because I've been in BNP for that long. During General Hanyane's time, we used to have time to discuss issues of saying, how is the government performing? How do we push the government to do as it do, please us? But recently, those no longer exist. During that day, during the early days of that day, CCD, you would see those very same conferences. They used to discuss the policies that government is trying to put in place. But now, as we speak, the very same political parties are no longer doing what they used to do.
Now, without necessarily casting negative aspersions, maybe on the current leadership, let's say of BNP, you were at the heart of the leadership of BNP. As Secretary General, you are almost the head of policy, if I may say. What happened? Why have you transgressed from
to be precise on that one? The manifesto that I went into the 2022 general elections, I'm proud to say was one of the best manifestos. Meaning the policy was well developed. But the issue of current governments, where now we are faced with policies and the stuff, even if we can have that very good policy, the issue of implementing to never be easy.
But from the civil society perspective, I know your role is to advocate, is to lobby, is to analyze, to conduct research, and hold government accountable for the policy direction and even policy implementation that they undertake. What would be your say or your take on this matter?
Yeah, what is important here, I think, like we are saying, is to see if the manifestos, the policy direction of the political party, do speak to the national, to the already existing, for instance, national strategic development plan, for instance, and other frameworks like the SDGs, the Millennium Challenge account and stuff. But if you take, for instance, like Hanyane said, the manifesto is a very good one, very good, very well articulated, but translating them to speak to the policies and to speak to the implementable programs of the government of the day becomes a challenge. We have failed to see what actually translates into a program from a manifesto point of view to becoming now a national government program of the day. We have seen the recent local government elections. I wanted to see how much the political parties have influenced, apart from emotions and populism, how political parties have influenced the electorate. I think most of the electorate have just voted because they want Party A to have representative in the local government council. But as to whether they represent a specific manifesto, a specific program of the political party, that has failed to come out clearly. And even if you can ask the political parties now to give us a program of decentralization, of what they want to do in as far as health is concerned, what they want to do in as far as agricultural extension program is concerned, what they want to do in as far as range management is concerned, soil conservation, water harvesting, all those programs they don't have. So it becomes difficult for us as civil society to then ask or tell people or convince people to vote and to go and vote in numbers, because there are certain expectations and there are certain promises that political parties will then bring on the table after the elections.
I will insinuate that political parties do go for elections without manifestos, which I think is a prescription of what the political party contesting elections decides.
No, that is not what I'm saying. Manifestos are there, beautiful, well constructed, but translating them into programs and making sure that the representatives, especially I've made mention of the local government elections, making sure that the councillors themselves who stood for on behalf of under political party A, to understand that at local government level, this is what my party believes in. This is what my party wants to do for the people of Ohatezano, or for the people of Marimabatsu. That becomes a challenge. What I'm saying is that particular councillor stood for the elections under the flag of that particular party, but not understanding the philosophy driven by that particular party at the local government level, and in as far as programs like decentralizations are concerned.
Dr. Hanyane, what should be done to entrench that culture of philosophical underpinning of a party reflected in a manifesto, such that when it becomes a government or it participates in government, we see that reflection of a philosophical underpinning of the political party?
During the 60th Parliament of Basotho, I raised a question as of why civic education is not part of the curriculum. As politicians, we bargain when people don't know anything because they don't have questions to ask. What I'm trying to say is people need to be educated. People need to understand why should they go and vote for councillors or for members of parliament. I once asked an officer at IEC, every time you go for elections, you are busy and occupied with voter education, but you never talked about civic education. Why is that situation? The answer I got was, when we go into donors, ask for funding, talking about civic education, they will bring in the money. But when we had to go for that, other priorities will be given priority as against civic education. Meaning the issue of civic education is very that Booi articulated to work that the very same councillors who stood under our political parties, they don't know what to do. That they don't know what they're expected to do. It is a truth that you cannot run away from. The very same political party leadership, they are not interested in decentralization because we will not be able to go and canvass. We enjoy saying we are going to build bridges, we are going to construct the roads, we are going to install water systems and the stuff. But once people can know that those are responsibility of the councils, some of the politicians will not be able to make it to parliament.
Definitely. I think that's a critical point when you look at it. How do we segregate the functions of members of parliament and the functions of local government elected representatives? Before we go for a short break, I want us to just look at one issue. It has become a tradition in some jurisdictions or democracies that we have what we call shadow ministries. Let's just take a short break and discuss that afterwards. We want us to look at the shadow ministries and the roles of shadow ministers in holding the government of the day accountable, and also the responsiveness of the government of the day to the propositions of the opposition. Let's just take a short break. We'll come back. Welcome back. When we went for the break, we were discussing the role of political parties as a vehicle for democratic consolidation, good governance, as well as delivery on the needs and aspirations of the people. We were about to discuss accountability, especially by opposition parties. I just want to know your views on how you reflect on the issue of shadow ministries or shadow departments, that it is tradition that opposition parties, I would say, mimic what governments do in terms of ministries but now we intend to hold them accountable. Is that a practice, maybe to start with, that Hanyane?
Yeah, what happened during the 6th Parliament, for instance, the BNP had up to 21 members of parliament. Of those 21, each was assigned to be a shadow minister to either one ministry or two. In that case, for instance, I was a shadow minister for youth and sports, also of education. So my concentration was to assess the performance of the line ministries from time to time. And we are doing that through the questions and answers processes. So, to make an example, one of the pressures I put on the Minister of Sports at that time was the issue of the establishment of the Youth Council. Though it did not happen in my time, but immediately thereafter, somebody who seemed to have been doing the same, but from a different political party. It was from an ABC at that time, with the one honorable Moreno. Ultimately, the Youth Council was established. Meaning, the pressure that we put on the government, they were forced to respond.
Yeah, if you look at today's order paper, it has got about 23 or 24 items. Most of them are questions to the ministers. And if those questions are done in good faith, not out of emotions, they are done for the betterment of good governance, then it shows the opposition is on the right track. Unfortunately, during the establishment of the current government, I advocated for that from the opposition. So say it is now time for the opposition to establish shadow ministries to ensure that out of these 15 ministries, they put one individual MP to make sure that they put an eye on the performance of the ministry as their way of oversight. But I'm not sure whether that was done, and that was also put in the public for the public to know. If we want to follow on issues of justice, human rights, constitutional affairs, then we will go to that particular MP on the opposition side. But I'm not sure whether that was done. But if they follow that kind of approach, I think that would be the best approach for providing oversight, not undermining what MPs in Parliament, the committees are doing, and many others. I think that is my take.
Okay, I just want to know on that, Hanyane, if opposition parties operate from a perspective of reactivity, they react to what government is doing, or they have proactive ways of holding government, assessing national policy, and say this is the standpoint, this is the doctrinal or philosophical standpoint of my party on this particular issue, and offering alternative policy prescription.
I think on that one, I would say this will be in two ways. There are certain issues which the opposition party will be interested in and wanted to see the government implementing. That would be the other part of oversight, where we'll be pushing ministers to stop doing certain things through questions. If we take, for instance, there was a time in our time where certain individuals in the Defense Force were promoted while they were having pending murder cases in court. So I had to challenge us on why the government do that, because we are saying if we continue to have such behaviors, it will be a trend. So to stop such and to make government be sure that when they promote people who are actually eligible, we had to ask that question. But very interestingly, it was not answered in Sesotho. It was answered in English. The government made it sure that some of the members of parliament will not actually understand the answers given.
Now, I want to establish, if you see a political party issue a statement to the public, is that statement informed by a policy position?
No, they are.
Or is it just a statement just because we are in your opposition, you have to say something? I want to understand that, especially from the Hanyane, coming from a political party.
Yes.
Whenever we see either a political party leader or a peer of a leader or any other person speaking, is that communication of a policy standpoint of that party on this particular issue? Or it's just a matter of saying, let's say something on this matter?
Most of the time it will be a matter of policy. I would quote one press conference. During Chief Tisile leadership, he was tied to some of the malpractices which were said to have happened at the convention center. We had a press conference. His deputy then, we went public and said, if there's evidence that Chief Tisile Masiliban is not one or the other, go and report to the police. You will not see the BNP going to the police station saying something is wrong with that. Because it is the policy of the BNP that if somebody has done his own issues, he must go and defend himself. We cannot be seen taking the supporters of the party to go behind somebody who said to have done something wrong. So we are saying, let that person go and answer for himself.
Okay. We'll talk about internal mechanisms, even on how to handle dissent within the political parties. I want us to get to the structures now, structures within political parties. Parties, they have structures. They will have the Women's League, they will have the Youth League, they will have the National Executive Committee, they will have subcommittees and other standing committees. I just want to establish the value that these committees play or these structures play. And say, for instance, the Youth League, is it crafting programs that are geared towards addressing youth issues?
I'm not sure whether maybe the Hanyane coming from the political formations will better deal with this one. But from my perspective and observing from a distance, I haven't really seen programs that are driven by women's leagues informing programs that are driven by the party itself. Even in ruling parties, I haven't seen the youth from that particular formation driving a certain agenda that they would want to see their own government then taking it forward and making it a government policy. I haven't realized that in action as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure if that can give a concrete example of that.
Maybe I should add on that. For the youth league and the women's leagues, they have specific roles, but they are very minimal. Minimal in the sense that now that they are not in control of the party's purse, they are always allocated money when there are programs that the party wanted to see them happen. For instance, anytime when we are going to have a rally, we want to appear smart. So definitely the Women's League would be assigned to go and decorate. The Youth League should be there to control, mobilize and do other things. When they go for programs like, can we be funded? We want to go and have discussions with the university student. We want to go and meet the student at the NUN. You will find the support is not very sufficient. It is whether the executives will be complaining that we are not financially stable. One of the things is we should be very, very serious and very clear. Political party leaders are afraid to see very vibrant youth leaders or women's leaders. So they are managed. They are not allowed to perform to their best.
Why? But because I'm saying why, because there's perception outside there that women leagues, the youth leagues within political parties are just political stooges that are created as support mechanisms for the leaders. That find a youth league parroting or following a leader when issues pertaining to you are not addressed, when issues pertaining to women are not addressed, but find this organization is being driven to pursue the leaders' issue.
Unequivocally, we should note one thing. At least 75% of each and every political party is made up of ladies, of which more than 50% of the overall party membership are women. Look into how our structures are. You go into all the executive committees. For women to reach a certain quota, we have to have a special seats for them. Meaning the strength of women in political parties are not well paraded. But with the youth, if you allow them to have resources, they can make wonders. But you see how they are managed to a certain extent.
Now let's look at the capacity now of political parties. The capacity would mean the ability of a party to communicate its manifesto, its standpoint, its ideological, even in terms of how it manages dissent within. And I'll talk to the issue of splits, the incessant splits that we see from political parties. How are political parties capacitated? They have the capacity to be to be bodies, because they are now formidable institutions and bodies that should have programs for the people. Maybe let me start.
Okay. I would say the political parties have the capacity, particularly now that politics has been seen as the best way of getting closer to the state cake. People with widespread knowledge are now joining politics. And even looking into our executive committees across the spectrum, they have the people who have the capacity. It is only that when it comes to implementation of certain things that we know we have to do, we so neglect by default.
Let them have from a social perspective.
If you look at all the formations, for instance, in the civil society, churches, there are differences, yeah? But it's very hard to split. But if you look at political parties, splitting is as easy as ABC. Tomorrow they fight over this smaller thing, tomorrow a new party emerges.
Well, what is the cause?
The cause is because they don't have mechanisms in place to manage conflicts. They don't have mechanisms in place to manage their differences. That is my take point, because I haven't seen any of them having to deal with issues other than bringing to the disciplinary hearing, expelling them from the party, suspending them. Those are the quicker actions that we have seen happening in most of the political parties. We have not seen somebody who really sins in a political party and is brought between before the mechanism that is put in place to deal with that particular somebody, and then they come back and say, yeah, we have dealt with this person, he's back now, they are back now, they are full members of the party. In most cases, they will offend the leadership, tomorrow they are gone. They offend the leader, tomorrow they are gone. Tomorrow they have formed their own political formation. So that is what we have been observing throughout the history.
Mind you, there are some light charges that can be made against people who have offended. For instance, the BNP will be talking about ostracization. We can ostracize this person for 6 weeks. You can punish this person by charging him to do a certain indemnity or so on without being paid. But we don't regularly use those.
Yeah. I just want to establish the degree to which parties are able to contain impunity within themselves. You have alluded to the issue of people brought to disciplinary action to account for their actions, maybe some suspended. But are there structures, criminal structures, that help parties to maintain goodwill, if I can say, and good behavior, discipline for political parties? And that discipline is discharged on the basis of the mandate, the doctrine of the party. If you go outside the bounds of our ethical line, we hold you accountable. Do you have such? If outside personality issues within members of the party, issues of discipline based on the doctrine of the party.
The weaknesses that are embodied in our constitutions are like, if I make an example in the Basotho National Party, they have a disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee will charge a person. They are not the ones who charge the person, but they recommend to the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee will then sit down, recommend to the leader, and the leader either endorse or throw away the recommendation.
Is it the leader or the executive committee?
The executive committee,
okay,
upon receiving the recommendation from the disciplinary, they would say the leader must excuse himself or herself. So that as the executive, they discuss the report or the recommendation and thereafter recommend to the leader.
Okay. So you have also a window of appeal.
Yes. If you are not satisfied with the charge, you can write to the conference, annual general conference, and they are the ones who will endorse or remove the expulsion or the suspension.
Okay. We are discussing the anatomy of political parties, looking at their ability to develop, to be custodians, to be the drivers of the democratic consolidation project as well as good governance. I have in my panel Mr. Booi Mohapi and Mr. Moeketsi Alexis Hanyane. We are not going to venture into good governance, now democracy, outside the role of the political parties in promoting peace, in promoting stability, in ensuring that there's social cohesion within the nation, in ensuring that the nation is rallied towards nation building. Let's just take a short break. We'll come back. Welcome back. We are discussing the architecture of political parties as vehicles that should drive democratic consolidation, good governance, and also carry the aspirations of the people. Before break, we discussed a number of issues, but now I want us to venture into the critical issue of the role of political parties in peace building, in ensuring that there's a peace architecture of the country, in ensuring reign of good governance, in ensuring issues of transparency in the government, ensuring the social cohesion, economic cohesion of society, as well as the drive towards building a nation beyond their political standpoints, their manifestos, but now a bigger picture at national level. Let me start with that Hanyane. What is the role of political parties in this regard?
I think you will allow me to be very brief on this one. I'm saying it because our politics to this day one more on the other center. You will recall there was a time it was recommended that there be an amnesty bill. trying to bring the nation together. But you recall, some of the parties were not even wanted to hear about them. Many would be going for a longer period, still having the very same problems of the past. So for
How would an amnesty bill help?
the issue was like, let's close the old page and start all afresh. Because other political parties, when they look at BNP, they will recall the atrocities of the 70s, or the purported, in fact, atrocities of the time. So when I'm looking into the era, the LTV, I would recall the Tabatzabo Garzi, I would recall the Tabatzabo Muela and the stuff. So if there are still certain issues that I can hold on as excuses for my party, it meant coming together as one nation will take us time. But the time could say, let's close the old page and open a new page altogether. It means we can be able to move together.
But recently there was proposal for a truth and reconciliation mechanism through promulgation of a law, and BNP was against that.
Hence why I'm saying that. Because I'm saying, those people who say in 1970 the BNP did what and what and what, I will be in a position to defend that. So as long as we have that thing of defending certain issues, we live up with those things up until. Let me give you a very easy example.
Let me just see what civil society says. I'll come back to you. Let me happen. Every time there's conflict, there's civil, I don't want to use the word strife, it might be strong, civil misunderstanding or understanding within the general public. And it normally emanates from political parties. What is your take on the role that political parties play in perpetuating, even instigating a lack of peace and stability?
You're right. I think most of the problems that we have as a country, most of the conflicts that arise in the country, apart from the ones that are, I see that the commissioner, the ones that happened in Mafeking concerning the farmer factions. Apart from those, most of the conflicts that are experienced in Lesotho are politically motivated and are politically driven, because political parties actually don't seem to be playing and bringing peace in the country, but are perpetrators of instability. You will recall that Hanyane has made reference to the 1970, the 1998, and many other incidences that were brought by political activities. So we cannot trust the political parties as engines and drivers of peace. We can't see them playing that role, other than being the perpetrators and the source for the conflicts. Even among themselves, that, like I've said recently, that they don't even have mechanisms in place to deal with issues of conflict amongst and within themselves as political parties. Well, the issue of social cohesion and nation building, it's a project that can be driven and must be driven by other bodies, by other mechanisms, but you don't see the political formations having a role to play, other than having a political will to participate and to actually pay for the sins or for the bad things that they did while they were in power. Like he has mentioned or talked about the issues of amnesty bill. But amnesty bill would only be relevant and be effective if people are really ready to distinguish between politically motivated ills and non-politically motivated, because some people committed very, very serious offenses in the name of politics, whereas they were not really politically motivated or politically driven offenses. So yes, we have to be genuine about it, and it has to be packaged very well so that it can serve the purpose.
Are you saying that the a peace architecture or stability or social cohesion that is driven by other bodies outside political parties, the civil society, the faith-based organizations, the business sector, the youth, and other formations, that the cohabitation between or among these bodies is not feasible in this country to drive the political, the nation building agenda.
Yes, that is possible. We have done it in Mafeking, we have done it in Rebane. My organization has actually established the Rebane Peacemaking Committee, and we are in the process of establishing Mafeking Peacemaking Committee, which will then oversee all peacemaking committees of the Mafeking district. That would then have a ripple effect to the national peace architecture if the government and other national bodies are interested in making sure, in ensuring that the national peace architecture does exist, because then it depends on the political will, because it needs to be funded, it needs to be legislated, it needs to be provided with the personnel so that it can be an up and running body.
Okay. At this juncture, I want to involve the participants. We have people who have grace dysfunction, and I want us to have questions, comments, as well as other ways of contributing. I'll take the first round of questions, of comments. Let me see that through hands, maybe 3 hands.
We are looking at political parties as vehicles for government, for mobilizing towards government, for being government, and therefore for promoting things like peace, stability, unity, etc. I thought this was interesting because I was looking at political parties as maybe the trajectory we could have taken was to say, are they the only vehicles to do this, to get government formed and to then manage our government and then to help us in all these constructive endeavors that we want to go at. We started there and we started talking about the frame, and then said our laws don't really exclude non-political party formations or even individuals from mobilizing to get into government. While that is important, and it gets us into now saying our frames for creating government, literally, even if the entry points and the laws at that level allow individuals to mobilize, by the time you get to forming government, the frame literally says you do that through organizations that aggregate interests, and therefore literally it dictates political parties. Now, here is where my question is: the capacity of political parties to be able to do all these things. Are we looking at political parties, and I listened carefully to the discussions. We have so many shades of political parties, including the argument for proliferation. There are political parties that one may call ideological. Others are programmatic because they say we are going to do 1, 2, 3. And that's where we start saying, our manifesto is going to reflect these things. Some political parties literally are, somebody says they are movements because they come and they address one agenda and then they die. For example, we have a political party that might say, not so and so. So the movement in the direction of that political party is to ensure that not ABC gets into government. And by ABC, I do not mean ABC a party. Okay, let's say 1, 2, 3. Yes. So you've got those. You've got electoral political parties whom you see in terms of practicalities. You don't even know that this thing exists until it's election time. So some of these formats of political parties, while all these things are political parties, they reflect different interests, they reflect different characteristics, There might even be status quo political parties, government political parties, and then you start to move into oppositional political parties. That would then start to ask the question that you are dealing with. If this is a parliamentary political parties, once you are there, what is your role if you're not in government? Are you going to be reactive? Are you going to be attacking and trying to show the weakness of government? Or are you always going to say, here's my alternative? In which case, the shadow minister function becomes more meaningful, because every time you have a session with parliament, with government, an opposition party says, here is where you're going wrong, this is what I'm proposing. Then it is not about competition at that level. It's about saying we are now a governmental institutional organization all together as political parties in government, and therefore our common agenda is to ensure that we all go in the right direction. Of course, they are also at the same time sending their own agenda and saying, you know that these guys are not the right people because I keep harping on to, here's my alternative. So if they take my alternative, I win. If they don't take my alternative and they fail, I still win. But the public has to know my alternative, and therefore the next time we go to polls, we might be in better position to override or to replace them in government. Let me just stop there because that was quite enough.
My question is, on the formation of government, at what level should the national plan, as the NSDP, talk to the molding of leadership the country wants? And secondly, at what level, either on the civil society or on the political side, should leaders consider committing to engage young people or youth, to be precise, in the leadership structures and molding them? At one point when my SG was telling me about the differences between commitment and engagement, he made an example of a breakfast. It was a bacon, eggs and others. So he told me that, you see, this egg is from the chicken, yes, but the chicken is still alive. So the chicken is engaged on this breakfast. But for the bacon to be there, the pig is dead. So it is commitment. So for the breakfast to be there, there was a commitment of the pig. So I want to understand, for our leadership to engage young people, is it an engagement or a commitment? How serious it is for our seniors to truly see that young people need to be on the structures, decision-making structures. Secondly, in the question of local government elections, for the fact that our political side said it seems to be a creation of employment because the central governance is not willing to let go or willing to decentralize the powers to the central government. Why is it not dissolved? Because it seems to be just a platform of creating employment for individuals or a certain portion of people, yet it is not going to be functional.
I just would want to ask Bundade whether it's really okay to have an opposition in parliament whose mandate or its duty is to oppose government. This is because we have seen other opposition parties in other countries. We have seen them influencing the agenda of the government, and the government ending up implementing their own initiatives as the opposition parties. But then in our context, we are aware that we have an opposition that looks onto the government just to find the loopholes and then want to destroy the government. That's my question.
Of questions.
Yeah, I think from sorry, I wanted to from Dade. I think yes, I agree with you, Dade Commissioner. I will address you as such because you are right. I think for me that the fact that the law provides for individuals to stand, but when it comes to the formation of governments, the law now talks to the coalition of parties parties doesn't refer to those individuals anymore. I think that is just a matter of inconsistency maybe in the law.
The question is it feasible? Is it practical that we can have independence from
Coming
different
on.
years?
I think the trend, if you looked at the trend in the local government, where you see so many independent candidates coming up standing, well, I think in the future you will see that trend also in the National Assembly, because like I've said, people are tired of political formations. Even when we were actually doing the in-district consultations, one of the most prominent recommendation was that let's do away with political parties. That recommendation was taken out by the political leaders. It was not taken to NRA, because the Basotho Nation have said we must do away with political formations. We must adopt at least the Eswatini model of Idinkundla, where people will just stand as individuals and be elected from their constituencies, from their wards, from their districts, to come and represent their people in Maseru. So that trend can come, but I think the political formations are so strong with their followers that maybe people who propagate for non-political formations are becoming weakened by that. So I just wanted to echo on his comment. Yeah.
I will not have much on this one raised by Commissioner Beltran. I would like to rush to the one raised by Chief Masopa.
Okay.
Chief Masopa, our culture remains a barrier when we come into the engagement of the young people. During one commission, prior to the Shani's work, I had a discussion with one of the commissioners. I was saying, now that we are having this model of seven, why don't we make sure that we say a man, a woman, somebody with disability, and a young person? The response I got was very simple. Let the young people go to school. So how serious was that issue? I asked, do you remember when I go to Parliament, I was too young to go and serve? That person said, yes, we should have gone to school. We remain the leaders of tomorrow. The perception in Zabasotho. So all I would say is, it is up to you that they must and your peers to make sure that you move to where you put yourself to where you belong. The elderly will never assist you to come and replace them. They will always remain understanding that we are still young. And imagine, I once asked the late Moeketsi Jonathan, are you going to allow your son to contest election in the next election? He was already very elderly. He said, no, I don't play with positions. And I said, but when Dr. Jonathan allowed you to be a minister, you were as young as your son. But you are still insisting. It is their time, not yet our time. But the second question from Dineo Ibabrani. The opposition does not necessarily supposed to be people who oppose everything. There are people who are supposed to be giving direction. In our time, our government nearly copied Sexual Offences Act from South Africa. When you look into that, we could see that there was much that we had to correct. And we successfully did so. It was going to be terribly bad. It was totally away from our culture. It was going to a level of saying a man can rape his wife. What our question was, how many men will go to jail? If my wife today is not happy, go and report. So we said, but we must explain the offenses which a man can commit. If the courts have directed that we separate, we must observe that. If one of the two partners is sick, we understand that. So I'm saying some of the aspects are like the opposition supposed to help government to do good. I think maybe your question was going in line with this thing, the vote of no confidence at the start. The nation have spoken very clearly. Hence why they were saying, let flow crossing be. If it was well regulated, we wouldn't be having this that we're having. We should not lie, as politicians. At times we are treated like a league. All this instability that we have seen in the Lesotho has been caused by one thing. Every member of parliament wants to be a minister. Everyone wants to be a minister. If he's not part of the people who are appointed to be a minister, he starts fighting the first day he gets into parliament.
I take it that this is your independent opinion. Don't put you into jeopardy.
No.
It's okay.
I've been in this practice enough.
It's okay. Okay, I think part of Mayor Monalana's question is opposition. There's a saying that opposition will always have their say, and the governing parties would have their way. And how do you qualify opposition? Good opposition or bad opposition? I think that is the question. What is good opposition and what is bad opposition?
But I think that Director has said it all.
Okay.
That a constructive opposition is to say, can't you do it this way? And that opposition will also let the public know that they have influenced that public policy, so that in future, when they want to become government, they say, you remember they did this, they gave Matabana 75 money, they gave Banaba this much. It is because we influenced that policy. That I think a good and a loyal His Majesty's opposition would function in that manner. I made a reference to the questions that are going to be asked today in Parliament. I said they are very good questions if they are done in good faith and for the purpose of providing oversight. If they are not done from emotions.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of our program. We have evaluated the architecture of political parties in terms of how do they drive the democratic making process, the democratic consolidation process. How do they contribute towards building good governance? How do they also build towards responding to the needs and aspirations of the people? Let me thank my good panel. I had the Executive Secretary, Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, Booi Mohapi. I had Alexis Hanyane, the former Secretary General of the BNP, who is also the former Member of Parliament, rather Member of Parliament for the 6th Parliament. We have had our participants drawn from different shades of our society. Let me also thank you for your participation, your questions, your queries, your comments. I think have made this program a success. Thank you very much.